Welcome to Watching the Horizon. I'm Jake. So, I've got a thought question for you. Imagine you went to the grocery store today and you pull up and it's closed. Big old sign right out front says grocery store's closed. And there's a bunch of people out there all kind of scratching their heads, and the grocery store's closed. So, depending on where you live, maybe you go to another grocery store, and let's just say it also is closed. Now, maybe there was an event, maybe there was an event, maybe some sort of storm or some sort of something politically. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. It doesn't matter. The point is, you go to the grocery store and it's closed, or it's just empty. You can show up and the shelves are just bare. What would you do? Like, actually stop and think about it right now. What's the name of the grocery store that you normally go to? When you walk in, it's either closed or it's empty. What would you do? Would you just go home? Would you break out your smartphone and look at the news? Okay. The grocery store is empty and they don't know when they're going to get resupplied, if ever. Something's happened or whatever. What would you do? Literally, what are your next steps? Now, imagine that some of you would probably just shrug and just go home. Honey, I'm sorry, I can't get the tomatoes. The grocery store's closed. And you might just kind of go on about your business, figuring that it would kind of work itself out. But the grocery store is not going to open again. How much food do you have in your house right now? Everything else is fine. So your freezer counts, your pantry counts, everything. How much food do you have? And then how long could you actually feed yourself and your family with the food that you have right now? That amount of time represents how long you have to get more food before you run out. Now, I think the statistics say 3 days or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I read somewhere that if the grocery stores were to close, it would take 3 days before there would be riots and chaos in the streets because people were starting to go hungry. So, how much food do you have in your house right now? And more importantly, what would you do to get more food now that the grocery stores are closed? We're not actually that far away. I mean, stuff happens all the time. It doesn't have to be anything crazy like a political event or a natural disaster or whatever. I mean, that stuff happens too, but I remember it wasn't that long ago, but there was a trucker strike. And I remember the grocery store was completely out of frozen goods and meat products. Just wasn't there. Now, because we all knew it was a strike, you know, there was some confidence that eventually they'd figure it out and, you know, they'd be able to truck in some stuff elsewhere. But, you know, for a good solid 2 weeks, there was no meat in the meat department, and the freezer section was practically nothing. It was inconvenient, and that's about all it was. But man, anybody who lives in a coastal city, especially down in the Gulf or on the East Coast, you know, if there's a big storm coming, you know what it's like. You go in there and there's lines at the cash registers. You can't buy anything. It's all gone. I think I read it was tuna and beer were the first things to go. I think that was according to Walmart. So the grocery stores are closed because they're empty and they don't know when they're going to get resupplied. What would you do? Food's cheap, especially dry goods, you know? I mean, you can go buy a sack of dry beans and rice, and that doesn't cost you hardly anything. And that'll get you a good long while. So it's just a couple of bucks. It's not even out of your way. I mean, if you shop at like Sam's Club or Costco, I mean, you can get that stuff now. You can go to a feed store, talk to the guys there, make sure they don't put any pesticides in it or anything like that, and you can get it even cheaper. But seriously, think about it. If you couldn't get any more food as of today, at this moment, how would you resupply your family? How would you get more food? Anyway, just something to think about. Keep your eyes open.